there is censorship. There is no real First Amendment.
In a society where comedians are getting canceled, we have lost the ability to progress.
Yeah.
Because
that concerns me.
It should concern everyone because comedians represent free speech.
When you're a comic, you have the freedom of speech. And that's what we're always trying to defend is like, do you like what this person said? No, but that's their right to say it.
Comedians are kind of the only people that can speak. And the platforms now keep you from saying certain things.
You know, comics, I think, we're the last free speech art form.
Personally, I think it's a violation of free speech and incredibly corny to hire a comedian and fire them for jokes no matter which side of the aisle those jokes land on.
Almost like you'll talk to comics and they're afraid to say almost anything because society's just so on edge.
And you know, I think stand-up comedy is the last bastion of free speech. It's the last place I can actually, you know, be a little bit shocking and disturbing.
Personally, I'm not afraid of other people's freedom of expression. I don't use it as a weapon. It just makes me feel better, and I'm sorry if I hurt anybody, et cetera, yada, yada, yada.
Let them say the government should be involved in censoring people's speech. Let them support that. Let these dumbasses think it's a good idea, and we should celebrate.
Amen to that, brother. When addressing freedom of speech, there's two questions controlling that conversation. First, is it possible to have too much free speech? If so, how much is too much? Second, who's in charge of deciding? When it comes to comedy, this has been an endless debate since the day of its inception, but here's what we do know thanks to the First Amendment and Lenny Bruce's legal battles. It's not the government who gets to decide. With the government out of the picture, different groups throughout history have tried to take charge of deciding who and what to censor. These groups including different churches, concerned parents, organizations that represent oppressed and marginalized groups, and even with the amendments and court rulings, that's never stopped Uncle Sam from trying to slide their hand in a few more times, like parents yelling at their kids, "Stop cussing in my house and shit. I made the laws. I bend them how I see fit." That's the government, baby. Meanwhile, many comedians have taken on the role of Lenny as they push back on censorship themselves. My focus is modern day comedians, their continued battle with censorship and how it's affected free speech. The last 10 years or so, it would sound as if comedy has ran into its first formidable adversary since the days of Lenny. Comics like Rogan and Chappelle have been very vocal about their fight against modern censorship with groups commonly known as the woke mob and their movement, cancel culture, with claims that this cancel culture is a threat to the freedom to explore funniness and be honest with their craft, while at the same time refusing their demands as they continue to battle this oppression. Brave men and women fighting for you and me, patriotic heroes risking everything as they courageously call someone a fat retard. I've personally never seen my own rights being defended, but the tales told about the battle make it sound glorious. Oh, and there is one small thing that they usually leave out regarding their motive to protect this free speech. It's those lucrative deals that they need to safeguard worth millions of dollars. Painting these warped visions of themselves as activists marching through Washington. The civil rights that they fought for was the right to use racial, ableist, and homophobic slurs during their comedy shows. Now, I subscribe to the idea that everyone has the freedom to say whatever they want. Too much blood, sweat, and tears has been shed in courtrooms, marches, and wars just to brush that to the side. However, that does not grant us immunity from consequences over words that we choose to express ourselves.
Said some pretty nasty things to some Afro-Americans. A lot of trash talk, and
Stop laughing. It's not funny.
The government, on any level, abusing its power to prosecute people for exercising said rights, this is an issue. Carlin and Pryor getting detained or fined for jokes labeled illegal for crude language, those are rights violations. Compare this to losing money, opportunities, or support from the public because they didn't like your content. That isn't the threat we're being told that it is. Customers of a platform demanding content be removed, as extreme as it's made out to be, this is not on par with your freedoms being stripped away. One is the threat of incarceration by an institute meant to uphold justice. The other is average citizens expressing disapproval, hoping that they're heard. I acknowledge these are all, without question, on the spectrum of censorship. But the electric chair and 20 minutes in timeout are both on the spectrum of punishment. It's not difficult to gauge the difference. The real dilemma isn't even comedians claiming the fight for free speech. It's about where the so-called fight is happening, creating these safe spaces free of burden from pushback, rooms filled with comedians and journalists void of any original thought, simply smile and nod in agreement.
So let me ask you a question, Mr. Joe Rogan, Mr. Scientist. Are you saying that we shouldn't
Don't
have...
do that. Don't call me Mr. Scientist. I'll start mocking you, and it's so much easier to mock you. This is a long conversation that we're not going to have on this podcast because I'm going to get angry.
This ritual becoming known as podcasting, it provides an opportunity to remind anyone listening about the woke mob, how it manages to be ultra sensitive about jokes and a threat to the fabric of society, just waiting to pounce and cancel comedy and free speech as we know it. Alanis Morissette would call it ironic. I simply call it sad to see. The only thing that could baby-proof these echo chambers any further would be disabling the comments. And honestly, it's not that far-fetched either. When comments are already being deleted as fast as they pop up, or they refer to anyone who disagrees as an online loser just jealous of their success.
I'm lucky to have you as a loser fan, but you don't have to be that way.
I miss when comedians had the balls to go on air with news anchors and argue their point against someone with an opposing view. The greatest example of this, Patrice O'Neal on Fox as he defends radio DJs Opie and Anthony. His opposition, Sonia Osorio, is there defending censorship and why she has to fight against crude humor. From the jump, Osorio claims,
"The nation is just tired. There's a new mood in the nation."
Patrice rebuttals,
"What nation?
The nation. You know what? We're tired of things that are just
Is this the nation, this paper, and you? I'm not the nation. I'm just speaking for me and funny."
She misquotes his jokes. She calls Patrice a fool. He flips it, sarcastically claiming to be offended by the name calling.
Outraged and fired and fired and fired. Name calling. I'm outraged. I am outraged.
You should be.
I am a fool.
What really elevates his defense, though, isn't so much what he's saying, rather the reaction to what is being said. The host, John Gibson, and the crew that are off camera start laughing at things that aren't supposed to be funny, apparently. Aware of what's happening, Patrice asks,
"Why are you laughing? She's outraged. It's called the donkey punch. It's called humor that she has no clue what it is."
Patrice is doing exactly what you expect a comedian to do. Defend humor with humor. Patrice wasn't there to defend his own jokes. He even defended Don Imus for a racial and sexist comment that got him fired. But his point was simple. Good jokes and bad jokes. They all stem from the same place. All of this is very entertaining to watch. Well, maybe not for Sonia Osorio, but the rest of us get to enjoy the clip.
It was hilarious.
Going back to the here and now, and we have Rogan fighting against PC culture, telling us how it's a plague in America and the dangerous agenda behind it.
There's a lot of weirdness with this left-wing choice of what to censor and what not to censor. And it's not just dangerous, it's also bad for the whole idea of being a progressive or being a liberal.
But a $250 million deal with Spotify seems to be that price tag to forget any worries about censorship. The platform removed episodes of the JRE podcast as part of the contract.
That's not good.
Yeah.
With the reason for some of those removals being Joe's use of the N-word and misinformation he spread about COVID. He quickly issues a public apology for both.
My sincere and humble apologies. I wish there was more that I could say, but all of this is just me talking from the bottom of my heart. It makes me sick watching that video.
So let me ask you a question, Mr. Joe Rogan, Mr. Scientist.
I do not know if they're right. I don't know because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist.
And then Rogan claims Spotify doesn't control the show, and yes, this is true. They don't have a hand in anything that's said on the podcast, but they do control what's allowed on their platform. Then we also have Rogan's Austin confidant, Tony Hinchcliffe, always vocal about the leftist maniacs in charge of cancel culture. However, when he made comments about Puerto Rico at a Trump rally, the pushback that he got came from the right. Even Trump went on air to say,
"Somebody said there was a comedian that joked about Puerto Rico or something, and I have no idea who it was. Never saw him, never heard of him, and don't want to hear of him."
More recently, though, he's spoken out about the draconian censorship on YouTube affecting monetization.
We found out from YouTube that there's new words that they want us to censor. New words that you have to bleep out or you don't make money anymore.
Again, yes, these are forms of censorship, but this isn't a violation against freedom of speech. The terms and conditions of YouTube outline what is and isn't allowed, and this is applied to all of its users before they're even allowed to create a profile. And despite demonetization or bans for breaking those conditions, YouTube is not a government entity. Really, it's no different from Tony cutting off bucket pools and guest judges who he doesn't find funny, disruptive, or just plain annoying, being told they have to stop talking, instructed what they should be talking about, threatened, and sometimes they even get banned from returning to the show.
Matthew, you got to take like a year off or something. Take like a year off. Sign up in a year. It's absolutely psychotically bad.
It looks like freedom of speech is only for those charismatic enough to please Hinchcliffe. Through it all, though, Tony continues to host Kill Tony on YouTube, all while being free to change platforms at any time. Oh, and remember the Puerto Rico incident? That didn't affect his career even slightly, as just a few months later, he signed a deal with Netflix for 3 Kill Tony episodes exclusively on their platform. So as a quick recap on the requirements of what it takes to be eligible for free speech, first, you must be a comedian. Second, do not be part of the woke mob. Third, you must agree with Joe, and you must defend his honor against any type of naysayers. And fourth, you must be funny and charismatic, otherwise you are getting shut down, kicked out, and banned from the free speech zones. Do all this and free speech is yours, and possibly a nice Spotify or Netflix deal. Now, speaking of Netflix, let's revisit Chappelle's case of censorship. His comeback specials dropped on Netflix, swift backlash as critics accused Chappelle of punching down on the LGBT, aiming the majority of his shots at transgender people. As a result, Netflix gave him a contract for more specials, reports estimating an amount north of $100 million. If this is getting canceled, please sign me up immediately. He claims that art should be free to express itself and the dangers of trying to silence comedy.
The more you say I can't say something, the more urgent it is for me to say it. And it has nothing to do with what you're saying I can't say. It has everything to do with my right, my freedom of artistic expression.
And I agree. Silencing expression is a very dangerous path that we should not be trying to travel. But in the same breath that he expresses his fear of censorship, he's doing the exact same thing to all of his critics. In the fight to protect free speech, comedians are inadvertently fighting to take that right away from anyone who speaks up in disapproval of any of their jokes, ignoring that protest and press are both parts of the First Amendment. Now, the groups demanding censorship are not freedom fighters either. They have the same dirt on their hands as well. For the sake of time, I'm only going to focus on Chappelle's opposition. Aside from the walkout's fellow comic, Hannah Gadsby called out Netflix for platforming hate speech, creating a transphobic industry. Then about a year later, she has a new multi-title deal with Netflix. And I guess like free speech, transphobic hate speech isn't an issue once that paycheck is good enough. During the walkouts, a counter-protest gathered in favor of Chappelle. Like it or not, this is also covered in the First Amendment. There's footage of the anti-Dave group getting hostile. They start blocking paths, snatching signs, breaking signs, and even after they break one of the signs, they start screaming, To make things even worse, they start trying to take another person's sign, attacking that pro-Dave protester, using more false allegations of he was trying to choke him.
Oh, shit. Whoa, get this guy. Get this guy on. Yeah, he just shoved me into the thing. Yeah, because you were choking somebody. No, I'm holding my pole.
The man in question wasn't trying to choke anybody. And these actions give credibility to the point Chappelle made about white transgenders only being minorities until they need to be white again. And finally, the Netflix employees. They dropped the complaints and resolved the issue. I'm not sure if this is code for a stand-up special deal, but whatever the case was, it was good enough to forget the dangers posed by normalizing transphobic jokes. All I know for certain about free speech is we will never be able to please everybody, but what we need to do is stop putting the responsibility of free speech solely on the backs of comedians and stop letting them think the responsibility is theirs and theirs alone. As we reach the end of our journey, if you like, go ahead and comment your thoughts on the issue. For now, though, I'm going to let George Carlin give us a quote on something I think most people would still agree with regarding the issue.
I don't like orthodoxy of the left any more than I like orthodoxy of the right. The right-wing Christians are trying to control your behavior. They're trying to control the behavior of other people. The left-wing academics are trying to control the language and behavior of people. I don't like anyone trying to control and dictate to me from an orthodox standpoint. I just don't think it's what I need to be whole.
And with that, I'm out.